What's up, guys? So I wasn't really planning on doing a video so quick after the other one, but I kind of want to do some stuff to this, so I figured I'd get it basically as it was after the RC10talk.com Fall Brawl, not this past weekend but last weekend. So this is what I call a B1.5 for those that have been on the forum for many years, kind of know what I'm talking about, and even on the Facebook groups. So, but for those that don't know, maybe not be up on associated stuff, to the 10T and the T2 are fairly similar. The transmission is different, chassis is different, rear bulkhead, but you know, for the most part, you know, they're kind of similar. And then the RC10, when the B2 came out, it came with the molded chassis and all that stuff. So it was quite a departure from, you know, the tub cars, graphite cars. And I always, a couple guys had done builds like this before, but they did a little different than I started doing mine. But the T2 chassis is a little longer than a buggy chassis or a 10T chassis, standard RC10 tub chassis. So I shorten them in the front to make them the same length as a RC10 chassis, and then I make buggies out of them. So late, probably, I don't remember when I built my first one, 09, 2010, somewhere around there. You know, I would just buy up cheap T2s and just turn them all into buggies like this. But this is one that was kind of on the bench for a long time, and I'd be kind of using it as a guinea pig for stuff. I'll just kind of go through kind of where this one's at. So like I said, I ran this at the race. It worked pretty good. If I could clean my driving up, be even better, but you know, it kind of is what it is. So I qualified second, and first lap got into a wreck and got flipped, had to get marshaled, and was dead last. And then I kind of hung around the back for a while because I was over driving it, and eventually I got up to fourth. I was a couple seconds back from third, and the race director was making it sound like I was catching him, and then coming out of the carousel onto the main straightaway, I just hung it too tight against in the corner and caught the pipe, and that was basically the end of that. But yeah, other than, you know, it worked pretty good. If my driving was a little bit better, it would have been better. But we'll just kind of go through this. As that is, it's kind of one of those builds that you just kind of throw parts at, and eventually it becomes a car that you can put on a track and use. Let me get the... Actually, I'll just kind of go over this. So a few years ago, I restored a bunch of T2s for Jason Rona. We had like one chassis set left with some plastics that really weren't all that nice, and that kind of stuff. So I asked him if he wanted me to build him one of these B1.5s, because I figured he didn't have one. So that's what I did. I ended up putting one together for him. And he said, you know, eventually we're going to make a body specific for these, because for the most part, a Viper was pretty much the only one that fit the chassis shape. The biggest difference is the towers on these are on the back sides of the bulkhead, where RC10 it'd be more up in this area, and the opening was the opening here is kind of narrow on the Viper, so you have to notch the back of the body out for it to kind of go over the shock tower. It's not that big of a deal, but so I had been using those for a while. I've seen a couple of guys try B2. I tried a B2 one. It's not bad. It's just a little tight up in there, but those fit pretty nice. But anyway, he said, you know, eventually I want to do a B1.5 specific body for these cars. And so a couple years ago, well, that was probably 5-6 years ago, we did the car. And so 2 years ago, he started working on this. So kind of took the the protector, the J Concepts protector body, which it's kind of hard to tell now because the back's cut off, because on this particular car it wasn't going to work. But yeah, this is kind of a prototype in a way, or just non-production J Concepts B1.5 body. That was a Techno rear wing. That's how I have the back set up. I thought I needed a tower with a little higher pedestal, you know, because I was worried about the tires hitting, but there's pretty good clearance there, so I probably could get a little bit lower spoiler, but it works okay. All right, so let me get the... Oh, and the body was painted by TW Designs. I wanted a Matt Francis layout, and he took it and did a little extra stuff on it, but kind of kept it the theme. Didn't stray too far from it. All right, so there's a lot of nothing super high tech in this. steel turnbuckles, all that. So quite a while back, Jeff from Factory Works was looking into doing some like world style arms, RPM world style arms. So I think I'd sent him some arms for him to draw up, and then he cut some, but then I don't remember why. I think it was more the jigging stuff up or drilling the holes properly and stuff. He just didn't want to be bothered with it. So he had sent me a set when he sent my arms back, and I think I put them on this car. Yeah, I put them on this car, and well, after I got it together, we stopped at Mimi's before the one vintage race in North Carolina, and I wrecked in front of the driver's stand on those patio, or those like landscape pavers that they had on around the track, and snapped the one arm. So I don't really got a whole lot left anymore now, because I did have 2 sets, so now I'm kind of down to an extra pair of rears and 1 front. But yeah, so those are on. I was using them to kind of test fit, see how they worked. Shock towers, kind of my own design that I've been using for years. Every time I build one of these B1.5s, I do something different with it. So like constantly changing tower shapes and heights, because like these are, the shocks were from a B4.2 when guys were breaking them down and parting them out on eBay, and you get a full set of shocks for like 20 bucks, 25 bucks. Yeah, so nothing real hop-ups or nothing like that. In the back, this is kind of where the so it's basically like an old was new type deal. Standard arm mounts, long arms. I always use the focus, the low C 2038 hubs, and in there the Custom Works 1/8 spacers. So the biggest thing with this one is, when I was putting it together, I didn't have a trans for it, and I had a RC10.3 with the gear diff. So I was like, I'm gonna see if I can get this in the car. And surprisingly, the way it worked out, because the top shaft is kind of located, it's kind of hard to see with the wires, but it kind of goes where it goes, right? Yeah, it's a lip and everything on it. So when you put the T2 motor plate on it, it actually like fit right on there. You like even the hole diameter was kind of right. I don't remember having to ream it out. Maybe I did. I might have had to ream that motor plate out, but I didn't have to move it or slot it or anything like that. So I was like, okay. So that lined up, and it also, let's flip this over. It also kind of lined up with the square in the chassis from the T2 trans. You can kind of see where I had to file it front and back a little bit just to open it up. But it's still basically, the diff is still basically centered where the factory one was, and then the 2 new holes there to mount it. Kind of see, it's got some countersunk washers in there to take up the space. So actually attaching it to the bulkhead was a little bit of a chore, and it's kind of impossible. You kind of see down there, you see where that spine is. So on the front of the trans, I have the 2 the tabs where on the front of the trans case where it bolts to the bulkhead or the chassis on like a B4 or whatever, and it has 2 separate screws, one in each half. So I basically notched the case so it would slide into the one triangle of the T2 bulkhead, and drilled a single, not gonna focus right, and drilled a single screw hole in there. So the bulkhead kind of keeps the case together. There's kind of wedges in there, and then even without the screw, it wasn't really going to move anywhere, but I wanted to put a screw in it. And then, it's going to be impossible to tighten. So I drilled a hole in the top through the center of the bulkhead, so you can run a 1/16 Allen through there and tighten that screw. So you basically got to start the screw in the case, put the trans in, and then you can go down from the top and tighten the screw. But it's good and tight. And then so I wanted to incorporate the B4 wing mounts, so I had to shorten them quite a bit to fit, and then drilled two of the holes in the, one of the holes I think lined up in the motor plate actually, the case screws, and then the rest of them I had to re-drill and tap. But yeah, it worked out. So I mean, it's still the same 260 that the T2 had, or the T2 trans has. The only real difference, it has the gear diff in it. And I mean, you kind of wouldn't think it would actually work at some of the, you'd kind of think it's more of a high bite kind of thing, or at least that's what I heard. Is actually the first time I used a gear diff in anything. Guys seem to say it's more for high bite stuff and carpet, but I mean, it worked pretty good. I mean, the Insanity where we had the race, and even pit stop where I typically race, there's bite there, but you step out of the step out of the groove a little bit, it can get pretty loose, especially Insanity. But yeah, it worked pretty good. You can see RDS Plus 17.5. So I ran the J Concepts green sprinters. And those are the DE Racing wheels. They're the only yellow wheels I had to glue some tires up quick when I finally got the car. Got electronics in the car, and I was going to take it to pit stop a couple months ago. But yeah, I don't know if you can kind of see it. See where I shortened the chassis. Typically the T2 chassis comes out to about there. So you cut all that off, shorten it back so it's same wheelbase as a standard RC10. So yeah, that's about it for this one. I do have some, I'm going to tear this down, clean it up. I have another set of, I don't remember if they were the V2, I think they're the V2s. The V2 Team Shocks. The 89 fronts and the B4 shocks, basically. The 118 rears and the B4 fronts. So I think I'll get those built up for this. Tear it down, clean it up. And I don't know, it's kind of done for, I'm done racing outdoor for now. But maybe I'll take it to Trains Lanes and run it on the carpet upstairs or something. See how it works there. But yeah, that's it for now. See you on the next one.